Hi everyone, in this video I'm just going to talk through how combat works in the game. And board's completely empty, just going to illustrate the key mechanics that you'll need to use and we will be using in the game. So we've got the most simple example here. We've got a German enemy counter in the same zone as the airborne counter here, the player's airborne counter. And whenever the player goes through the turn phase, and in the combat phase they're in a zone with an enemy counter, then combat has to ensue. You cannot move out of a zone until that combat has been successfully resolved. In this example, first thing we'll do is we've got 2 dice ready. 2 dice is preferable, 2 or 3 dice is preferable. You will roll 2 dice for the enemy counter, and the enemy counter always rolls 2 dice. And let's suppose we get a 3 and a 1. You retain the 3, remember it, and this is the number that the British airborne counter that the player has. This is the number that you have to equal or beat to defeat that squad. The British airborne squad here, they will roll number of dice equal to their attack attribute. So let's say their attack attribute is 2. British player will roll 2 dice. Let's suppose we get a 5 and a 2. As long as one of those dice number is equal or greater than that dice number, they win and they are removed off the board. Straightforward. In the same example, let's use a different squad now. Let's suppose we've got a C squad here. Again, 2 dice for the Germans, and let's suppose we get a double 5. Okay. It doesn't matter that it's a double, it's the highest number you retain. Doesn't matter that it's the same number, it's the highest number you retain. So it's a 5, it's obvious. This squad here, squad C, has got a different attack attribute than the previous squad. And let's say they only have an attack value of 1. So they will roll 1 dice. But they're lucky, they get a 5. Well, it's the same. As long as it's the same or more, they defeat that squad. So, success. And in the last example, let's say we have a D squad here, and the German, they roll a, let's say a 4 and a 2, and D squad have an attack value of 3. Then you'll roll 3 dice, needing to equal 4 or more on the highest of those dice, or the choice of those dice, which will always be the highest. Let's say you've got to get 4. Let's say the British get a 6, a 1, and a 2. Well, the 6 beats the 4, so the squad D defeats that squad and they're removed from play. And just so I'm absolutely clear, never hurts, try best. Let's suppose the German squad in their 2 dice rolls gets a 6 again and a 5. You don't add the numbers up, it's just the highest one, 6. So they need a 6 or more to beat them. And let's suppose in that example, let's go back, let's use C squad. And let's say they roll 2 dice on their attack, and let's say they get a 4 and a 2. The 4 is not equal to the 6, and the 4 is not greater than the 6. So they do not defeat the enemy counter, so it stays in place. You don't add up both the numbers together to equal that. It's just the highest or the dice of your choice, which I'm sure will always be the highest, but there you go, just so I'm clear. So the 4 does not beat the 6, that means it stays in place. Now, in this next example, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and show one of the other mechanics as part of combat, and that's the bravery points. So let's say the German counter here gets a 6 and a 4. The Allied counter, the British airborne counter, the player's counter, they get a 5 and a 4. So the German got the 6. Let's just put that there just to visually show us. And the poor British counter, they got 5 and a 4. The 5 is not equal to the 6, and it's not greater than the 6. So all is not good, right? No, that's not quite true. So what you can do as a player, if you want, and it's entirely optional, your discretion, you can spend a bravery point and re-roll either of your 2 dice. Entirely up to you which one you re-roll. You can re-roll one. And let's say the player, you decide to do that and you roll a 6. Great. Victory. So the 6 is equal. So that has been defeated. And you have spent a victory point, a bravery point in doing so. Okay, let's use exactly the same example. The German counter, the highest number was a 6. The British got a 5 and a 3. The player thinks, oh, I want to spend a bravery point. I really want to get rid of this German counter. It's holding everything up. Got to get a move on. Let's spend a bravery point. And you re-roll one of the dice, doesn't matter which one, and you get a 1. Oh no, didn't work. You can spend another 1 if you want. And you roll again, and you get the 6. Okay? There is no limit how many of these bravery points you spend on re-rolling your dice. It's up to you. The only limit is the limit you have of the bravery points in the game. So I'm now going to show another example of what can happen in the combat. And this is where we've got an enemy German counter, player British airborne counter, and the enemy counter has a re-roll there. Okay. And this can occur as a result of an event in the game, where the game will tell you, the AI will tell you, you need to place a re-roll counter with the German infantry counter. And we've done that there. So in this example, the German counter is rolling its 2 dice. And let's say it is a 2, that's nice and easy, and a 3. Okay. So the British player would now roll their dice normally to see if they can beat the 3, equal or beat the 3. No. Instead, because it's got a re-roll, okay, you re-roll the lowest dice, roll it again. And let's say we get a 4. Well, the highest number now is the 4. So the 4 beats the 3, so the German value now is 4. So the British player has to get a 4 or more to defeat this counter, and this counter would be removed at the same time if that was to happen. Let's use a different example. Let's say it's a 3 and a 1, and we've got a re-roll. So as the player, you re-roll the lowest dice, and it's the 1. You re-roll it, and you get a 2. Doesn't matter. The highest number is still the 3, so it's the 3 that counts. So the re-roll can make the German counter harder to defeat, but not always. There's always still a fighting chance the British can defeat the German. Now, let's suppose there's a 6 and a 1. Okay, to be honest with you, you would still re-roll the 1, but there's no point because you've already got the 6. So you don't need to do that. You can, by the letter of the rule, you would re-roll it. But it's already a 6. Spend that second or two making a cup of tea. Now, let's pick another example. Let's suppose it's a 3 and a 1. You re-roll the 1. You get the 3. Oh, there we go. The highest number is a 3. I think they're the main examples that I can think of immediately where it could happen with the re-roll. Effectively, the re-roll, you re-roll the lowest dice to try and improve the situation for the Germans, and it makes them harder to remove. That's effectively what that mechanic does. That's the spirit of the mechanic. That's the intent of the design. And in this example, we have here a British squad, German enemy, and the British squad is disrupted. And when this happens, it's very straightforward. On the disrupted counter, we can see attack 1, defense 1, morale 1. Whatever the attack value of that squad was, it's replaced by the attack value on the disrupted counter, which is 1. So if their attack value was 3 and they're disrupted, well, now their attack value is 1. If their attack value was 1, well, it's still 1. It's still a 1. They probably would have suffered somewhere else, but it's a 1. Now, and the last example, let's think of all the things that could possibly ever happen. We've got a German with a re-roll. We've got a British with a disrupted. British is also going to use some bravery points. Germans always rolling 2. Again, they get a 2. They get a 1. They have a re-roll, so we re-roll the 1. It becomes a 3. The player now has to roll their attacks. It's a 1. They get a 2. The British player spends, I want to get rid of that. Need to get that off, which we'll come to later separately. So, but I want to get rid of this unit here. I spend the bravery point, I re-roll, and I get a 3. It's equal, they're removed. And that re-roll gets removed with them. That's, I think, a good surmise of all the instances where you could possibly be encountering combat and how the combat mechanics work in the game. There is one, just thought of one as well, which is important. Let's suppose we have 2 German counters in the zone. And this can happen. So say there's 2. And what you would do here is 2 dice for this counter, 2 dice for this counter. So let's say we get a 1 and a 2 for that counter. And let's say we get a 2 and a 4 for this counter. That means a 4 and a 1. They're the highest numbers that the British player has to get to defeat them. And let's say this British player here, his counter here, has 2 attacks, the same, and they get a 2 and they get a 4. Okay, the 2 beats the 1, removed. The 4 beats the 4, removed. So in this case, the British player must split their 2 attacks across the 2. Let's suppose the British use exactly the same situation. But the British counter here only has 1 attack and they get a 6. Great. They can choose of those 2 which one to remove. But as they only got 1 attack, they can only remove 1. Let's say they remove that one. Great. Let's suppose the British counter here has an attack value of 3. So they're rolling 3 dice and they get and let's suppose, let's make it a little bit more interesting. A 2 and a 4 there. They've got to get a 2 to beat that one, a 4 to beat that one. and they get a 1, and they get a 4, and they get a 6. The 4 would beat the 2, the 6 would beat the 4. The 1 is it doesn't matter. So both defeated. And the final example I can think of is they've got 3 attacks and they get a 1, a 1, so they've got 2 1s and a 5. The 1 and the 2 1s are not equal or greater than the in either of these cases. The 5 is, so they've successfully defeated 1. So again, player choice. That one is removed. It's entirely up to you which one is removed. So there's another example where that potentially can happen. Now, if on the same thread, if there's a situation in the game where there are 2 infantry counters and there are 2 or more German counters here, effectively you're doing exactly the same thing. 2 dice, number of attacks, to the player to decide with the results they get how they distribute those between the 2 counters. What the player can't do is they can't lump. Well, they can actually, so that's not true. So let's run it out. So we get a 4 and a 2, and we get a 1 and a 3. So 4 and a 2, 1 and a 3. 1 attack gets a 5. This one's also got 1 attack and gets a 4. 5 beats theirs. 4 beats theirs. So both are defeated. So there's a lot of flexibility for the player to distribute those attacks how they want. And hopefully that'll give you a good broad understanding of how combat and all the edge cases of combat works in the game.